Hey crew, I'm Lexi, a tarot reader and an astrologer, and welcome to ASTROHUNKS, the series where I analyze the birth charts of famous, hunky Hollywood men for your viewing pleasure. In today's episode, if you haven't figured out so far, we will be exploring the birth chart of none other than Hannibal Lecter himself. No, not Anthony Hopkins, but Mads Mikkelsen. I remember when once I had a connecting flight from Bucharest to Stockholm. I had a small departure on the Danish airport in Copenhagen, and as I was walking through the doors of the airport, right at the entrance, there was this huge banner with Mads Mikkelsen trying to sell me a beer. Then I was walking to get my connection, right? And I saw another poster of him dressed in a suit, looking all hot, and he was trying to sell me a watch. I don't know what was up with this kind of aggressive advertisement, but it felt like Mads Mikkelsen is an institution in his country. Mads Mikkelsen proudly owns under his belt an extensive career. If you decided to skip on Hannibal the series because it was too gory for you, he does play the role of a cannibal in it, then maybe you are familiar with his work from Casino Royale, where he played the infamous Cypher. Also, he starred in A Royal Affair. In addition to this, he played in the iconic Valhalla Rising, but I personally really enjoyed him in The Hunt, the love story between Coco Chanel and Igor Stravinsky, or my all-time favorite Nordic movie, I Am Dina, where he played a pretty despicable character. Today I'll be talking to you about the 5 most significant things that stand out from his birth chart in my humble view. But before I get into them, have a look at his natal chart. Important aspect is actually one that is lacking: his ascendant. We are not aware of what his ascendant is, mostly because there is no birth time available for him. It could be that he chose to keep this information private, or it might just be that nobody knows what his birth time is. This is a common thing out there with celebrity charts. In certain cases, we just have to guesstimate where all of the planets and the position of his south node and north node are taking place, where they are parked in the birth chart. The houses are significant because they show us where the important energy is funneled into an individual's lifetime. For example, a person's 5th house might be very significant in their actor's birth chart, while in other cases, the 9th house might be the one that is actually influencing their choice of roles and how they are perceived by the public. However, in Matt's case, we do not really know, so we're just gonna have to go on a wild, imaginative loop. I would say, judging by the way he comes across and the fact that he became famous towards the latter part of his life, that his ascendant could be in one of those signs that ripens a little bit later. This could be Capricorn, this could be Aquarius, or it might as well be Scorpio, which would make his stellium of stars in Scorpio. He has 3 planets in the sign of Scorpio that I'm going to be talking to you in the second point. But he might have the stellium parked right on his rising, giving him a really important Aries-like dominant energy. Other important aspects that I need to mention right off the bat is that our man has 2 significant astrological patterns in his birth chart. Mads has a T-square in his chart. Ouch. This is an aspect of great tension involving some of the most powerful energies in his chart. This would be the planet Pluto and Uranus conjunct in the sign of Virgo, together with Chiron in Pisces and Mercury in Sagittarius. Now, any aspect that involves Chiron, the wounded healer, is going to hurt a little bit. And I can see that the way in which he speaks, Mercury, is really affecting his capacity to feel empowered and his capacity to rebel against the establishment, which, to be honest, for him, they're quite diminished because they are in the humble and people-serving sign of Virgo. T-squares are aspects that create a lot of tension. Those planets that are involved in the square are not really seeking some sort of resolution. They're kind of butting heads. They're creating a lot of frustration, anxiety, maybe a sense of low self-esteem, and they're kind of blocking each other's energies. Now, this dynamic tension is meant to help the person grow and challenge themselves and take on potential aspects in their work that they want to overcome. No wonder that he goes for such intense roles in his career, not only because he's naturally drawn towards intensity and he creates it around himself as a Scorpio sun, but there's also the energy of this T-square that is present around him. This man on some level is like a walking revolution, but like a quiet, silent, modest, humble one. Now, the other interesting aspect is that he got a challenge in that T-square, but he also got a cosmic blessing. He has a cradle aspect in his chart. Cradle is a conglomeration of a lot of important trines and sextiles, and they include an opposition as well. This shows that the individual received a lot of gifts, a lot of blessings in his life to make the best of them by influencing the collective in a pretty important way. On one hand, he gets challenged, and on another hand, he gets really blessed. And this kind of extreme energy speaks to me about the next important aspect in his chart. Now, the second significant marker in his chart is the fact that he's a sun in Scorpio, conjunct the moon in Scorpio, conjunct Neptune in Scorpio. This makes him an amplified Scorpio. So the natural intensity that he exudes and that he actually feels attracted to in his life is made even double by the fact that he borrows from the other water signs that he shares the same element with, Cancer and Pisces. Cancer and Pisces have as their natural rulers the moon for Cancer and Neptune for Pisces. So our man is a Scorpio ruled by Pluto with his sun conjunct the moon and Neptune, which makes him act like a Cancerian and like a Piscean as well. He borrows the best traits of these two other fellow water signs, but he can also borrow the worst traits, which can be high emotionality, a lack of clarity on what he is thinking, and potentially he might be struggling as well with verbalizing his strong emotions. We're gonna get to that in the third significant marker, but let's scale it back down to his Scorpio stellium. Now, judging by his choice of roles and judging by how emotional he can be in certain moments, but also how cool and collected he is, he's got a very good grip of emotional control and emotional release. And I would say that all of the Scorpio energy is parked either in the first house or on his rising. Why would I say that? Well, because the sun in the first house or close to your rising makes you be a natural super attractor. This energy then is amplified by your unconscious sexiness, by the way in which you are able to just act or react in a very emotional way to other people's cues, and this is represented by the moon's energy. Not only that, but if you guys remember, we talked about the significant aspect of having Neptune in the first house conjunct a lot of other energies in the previous ASTROHUNK episode when we looked at Matthias Schoenertz's chart, who also had this aspect in common with another Hollywood icon, Marilyn Monroe. So Neptune in the first house makes you a natural born actor. This is a similar aspect to whether you would have Neptune in the 10th house, but it's a little bit diminished because the 10th house is our public self. However, the first house is our rising, right? So whatever we pull into ourselves. So Mads has this very beautiful energies of both his identity, his very paternal energy, the sun, sitting side by side with his moon, his yin-based energy, the maternal qualities of his mind, the moon. And these energies are made very soft and ennobled by the beautiful, unconditionally loving energy of Neptune. However, this also tells me as well that Sun conjunct Moon is the classical aspect of a person born on a new moon. And with Neptune there, it was actually divinely guided for him to have a constantly replenishing energy guided towards shifting his identity, transforming his identities. Because what do Neptune and Scorpio have together as energies in common? Transformation, personal identity shifts, being a chameleon, being able to quickly adapt from role to role. And as you guys can see in these images over here, he was able to quickly shift in his career between playing very highbrow, emotionally controlled roles to playing very wild and kind of physically demanding roles, which leads me to the third point in his chart. The third significant marker is the fact that he has a south node in Sagittarius conjunct Mercury and a north node in Gemini conjunct Jupiter. This is a beautiful natural harmony between what he is meant to leave behind in this lifetime, because you already mastered this lesson in previous past lifetimes, which is the essence of Sagittarius, a chase for freedom, a taste for travel and adventure, a way in which he resorted to the world by learning about things as he went along rather than talking about them. He's a doer. He's a very physical guy, very wild and free, like a stallion at heart, right? However, this past life energy is in mutual receptive harmony because it is conjunct the natural ruler of Gemini, Mercury. So he has a past life node, his south node of the moon, in the sign of Sagittarius ruled by Jupiter, and that is conjunct Mercury in Sagittarius. And opposite from the chart, he has the north node in Gemini, the sign naturally ruled by Mercury, conjunct Jupiter in Gemini, Jupiter being the natural ruler of Sagittarius. So mutual receptivity, right? Perfect harmony. However, it is a little bit of a confusing energy to work with because he is meant to let go of this very same thing that he will create in this reality. Wealth, growth, a guru-like image, being a really popular person, being a person that has a wide global reach. He's meant to achieve it and then let it go. He's meant to not focus on the material wealth that he will be creating in this lifetime, but focus rather on the spiritual wealth of his lifetime. And this is interesting because we see the same kind of push and pull energy that is expressed in his other aspects, such as the Pluto conjunct Uranus in Virgo energy and opposing the asteroid of the wounded healer, his Chiron in Pisces. So he's meant to build an ego and then let go of the ego and come back into his true self. He's meant to work on his communication skills and then let them go. He's meant to achieve wealth and fame and renown and become almost like a teacher figure for other people in his career. And then he's meant to just humbly back away from this role and retreat into the privacy and comfort of his own family. And his family seems to actually matter a lot to him. He's very private about his long-term connection to his partner. It's interesting as well because with a south node in Sagittarius, this is the quintessential aspect of a person that is a little bit of a player in the first part of their life. However, with a north node in Gemini, he's meant to meet someone and connect to that person, because a north node in Gemini, Gemini being a dual energy, is all about partnering up with other people, tending to the small details in life, working on, being in touch with the people in your local community. However, the past life legacy was one that was very bombastic. It was very important. So his entire energy in this incarnation is about flexibly moving between these two aspects, which are only amplified by the fact that he has Mercury in Sagittarius in perfect receptive harmony with Jupiter in Gemini. Not only that, but I need to mention that the way in which the energy felt in the last 17 months for all of us as a collective is the way that Mads has been feeling in his chart most of his life. The nodes are going to switch signs in January 2022, but up until then we still have some more North Node in Gemini lessons to integrate. But think about how this past year and a half has been feeling for the collective. It was a little bit low, it was a little bit pessimistic, we were flooded with news. It was a lot about technological app development, a lot about transport in the local neighborhoods, right? Delivery service being really amplified, and it was a general lack of faith that people have been experiencing in the last year and a half. Well, Mads has this energy in his chart since birth, and look how beautifully he managed to actually put it to good use for the collective. Now, he shares this placement together with Keanu Reeves. We astrohunked him in a previous episode. Go check that one as well and do the comparison between Mads' chart and Keanu's chart, because they do share two really important aspects. the South Node in Sagittarius and a North Node in Gemini, and also they're both part of a generation of actors that have their Pluto in Virgo conjunct Uranus in Virgo. And also they're both earth and water sign sweethearts. They have so much earth energy in combination with water energy in their chart. And as you can see, they're very hard workers. These are people that put out at least a movie a year or a franchise, or they play in series. They are really hard working, right? They show up and they do the job, which leads me to the other interesting aspect in Mads' birth chart that tells us a bit more about how he is as a worker and as a lover. The fourth aspect that stands out to me from Mads' chart is the fact that he is Venus in Capricorn conjunct Mars in Capricorn. Now that is a really interesting energy because Venus doesn't do so well in Capricorn, while Mars is excellent in Capricorn. This is the sign of the determined worker, the one that follows rules, obeys regulations, proceeds in their endeavors step by step, and always finishes the job that they have started. This is a guy that enjoys the comfort provided by work, the routine and the structures of traditional institutions. This is a person that actually wants somebody, a higher up, to look up to be mentored, to be tutored, to grow through discipline in his chosen profession. Venus in Capricorn, on the other hand, this is a pretty ouch placement again. This shows a person that will have to undergo a number of tests and tribulations, will have to overcome obstacles in terms of how they relate to other people and their capacity to naturally attract good things towards them. Venus in Capricorn can sometimes be unfairly perceived as immature. They place their heart in whatever it is that they're doing, but they make a lot of mistakes in personal connections because they are too naive and too open at the beginning of their life. So Saturn, the energy of Capricorn, is maturing Venus in this incarnation for Mads. It's teaching to be more patient with love, how not to open up all of a sudden, how to be less flamboyant, how to not exaggerate, how to speak the truth, how to take things more lightly as well in personal connections, and to empathize with the other person. Yes, one of the problems with Venus in Capricorn is the fact that they tend to think a lot about themselves in personal connections. They tend to put their own feelings on top of the feelings of other people, and they miss a lot of things about the important steps of slowly getting to know an individual, such as asking them questions. What do you like? What do you think about this connection? So a Venus in Capricorn in a square to his North Node in Gemini is showing me that personal connections, falling in love, holding down a long-term commitment to somebody has actually been the challenge of his lifetime in this incarnation. So on one hand, Venus conjunct Mars makes you incredibly attractive. It makes you magnetic because you have the energy of love combined with the energy of raw lust, right? Mars, raw lust, sexuality and physical desire, and Venus, love, affection, looking good. When you have these in combination in your chart, you are a love bomb, you are a sex bomb. And we can see how attractive he is in spite of the fact that he chooses rather creepy roles. Well, that's the flavor of having a lot of Capricorn and Scorpio in your chart. It's almost like you're a dark attractor, right? You have this raw, lusty sense of sexual magnetism. So people can actually find you quite creepy, but also they can get easily obsessed with you because they feel so pulled into your darker energy. He attracted a lot of people in the first part of his life. He also was tested in terms of the relationships that he was created. He was asked to be very patient. He was asked to be very humble. Venus in Capricorn was keeping him in check. By the way, Venus is at the moment in Capricorn, so our Mads Mikkelsen is at the moment going through his Venus return on his Mars. Hey! And then Mars in Capricorn is actually blessing him with a lot of stamina, a lot of endurance, a lot of stoicism. This is a guy that loves to be part of a group. He loves to obey orders. He likes to work for it. So we can just imagine, right, how he can be in the bedroom. This is the smutty part, guys. So he's somebody that is very committed. He takes relationships incredibly seriously. He might find it hard to let go of a person, so he needed to develop a sense of humor and take things more lightly. And he also needed to practice empathy in his personal connections. However, his Mars in Capricorn gave him the strength and the determination to keep persevering. So this is a guy that really enjoys physical pleasures. He really enjoys being committed to his partner. This is a guy that is slowly letting go of his wild, playerish past lifestyle, and he was brought into this incarnation to stand by one partner, to please her, to have a family with her, to ask her for her opinions, to empathize with her. And the final aspect that I want to talk about is the fact that he has his Saturn in Pisces, conjunct Chiron in Pisces, and this is opposed by Pluto and Uranus in Virgo. Ouch, 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 ouch. This is actually the marker of the generation of people that he was born in. A little bit colored by the fact that Saturn in Pisces was transiting for the duration of about 2.5 years when he was born. Fun fact, he is actually born in the same year as my mother. My mother is actually a couple of months older than Mads Mikkelsen, which is pretty phenomenal if you think about it in that way. I could literally be Mads' daughter. Oh, okay, bizarre. Let's move on from that thought. So coming back to what Saturn in Pisces represents, test upon tests regarding his capacity to feel. He is challenged by the universe in this incarnation to be humble, to be kind, to be giving, to let go of things. And usually he has to let go of certain aspects which are related to his sense of power, his capacity to be vulnerable, Pluto, and his capacity to revolutionize things around him, to innovate and to share knowledge with other people, Uranus, regarding his feelings, regarding unconditional love, regarding spirituality. That's what I had for you guys today. There were a number of obstacles while I was filming this video. I'm not sure why I get so many obstacles while I'm trying to film these astrological analysis. I always start off from the premise, okay, I noticed the signs, let's talk to the public about them. And then I get so many limitations throughout the day in me bringing this content out to you. So thank you so much for being here, for liking these videos, for commenting, for sharing your experiences. Next, there will be a number of other Scorpio actors, but please make sure that you also watch this video in combination with the Keanu Reeves analysis and with the Matthias Schoenertz, because there are a couple of really interesting aspects to compare and to link together in all of these 3 videos. And until next time, I'm sending you massive amounts of light. Take care!